Hi everyone, it's Shel from Scrap Secrets and welcome back to my channel. Today is day 3 in the 2022 Countdown to Christmas series, and we're going to be making 2 cards using a single stamp. This card is using the stamp as a focal image, and then this card is using it to stamp a repeating background to create a spotlight image. The 2 stamp sets that we're going to be using are both from Honeybee Stamps. This one is called Merry Little Mice, and then this one is called Merry Christmas, and we're going to be using the sentiment with the same name as the stamp set. The 2 cards that are being made, one is a 4-inch square card, and that's going to be our spotlight card. And then the other card with the focal image is going to be an A2 size card with a couple of layers on the background. A2 size cards measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, but we're going to start off with the 4-inch square card. So I'm taking a piece of 110-pound white cardstock cut to 3 1/2 inches squared, and taking that one stamp and repeatedly stamping it onto the paper, off and on the paper, to make it look like we cut down a piece of pattern paper. And the reason that you want to do that is you want to make it look like it's a continual image, so that just like a pattern paper would be. So once I'm done that, we are going to cut out a middle part of it to create a spotlight technique. So I'll talk to you guys a little bit about the spotlight technique when we're going through and coloring, because there's a couple of different ways that you can do it, but I chose to do a multiple layer one. You can actually do a single layer one, so we'll talk a little bit about that while we're doing I left some of the coloring in. So once this piece is done, then I will tape the square die down to the middle of it and run it through my new machine. So I think I got the Sizzix Big Shot. Yes, that's what I got. I got the Sizzix Big Shot. So use that. So different than the Cuttlebug. It runs really smooth. My Cuttlebug was like 10 years old, so needed a new one. But now I'm moving on to a piece for the second card, and I stamped down that same mouse image onto a square, and we're going to color that in with Copic markers and make that the focal piece. So there we go. I ran that through, and you can see now I have 2 pieces. The red cardstock is 1/4 inch larger than the piece that we cut out for the spotlight piece. And I'm just showing you guys how it's going to look all layered together. And you can see that even with the red piece in the middle, your eye still looks at it as one continual piece. Now we're getting ready to color in the mice as well as the present. So while you guys are watching me color, I'm going to talk a little bit about different ways that you can do the spotlight technique, because I think it's a great way to stretch your supplies, as well as if you only have limited images or stamp sets, this is a great way to get different effects out of cards. So if you are going to go for a multiple layer one, like this one I just did 1 layer, but if you have some nesting dies, you can easily create multiple layers. So to do this technique over and over again, and just pick different size dies and keep cutting the background down and making the piece in between the layers 1/4 inch bigger, 1/8 inch bigger, however you want to do it, and then just glue all the layers together. You can pop a layer up. If you want to do a single layer technique, what you can do is you can trace a die or a stencil shape onto your card and then just color inside of that area. Or you could do the opposite, put a mask down and color everything except what's in that mask. So there's a couple different ways you can do that. I think one of the next things that I want to do the next time I do a spotlight card is actually take a stencil that has the mask to it. I know I have a bunch from MFT as well as Honeybee stamps in all different shapes, and use those with some distressed inks, distressed oxides, and things like that, because you don't always have to use colored pencils or Copic markers. You can also do this with inking. So I think that would be fun to possibly do a positive and a negative with that, where I mask off an area and then just ink blend the rest of it, and then do the opposite where I just ink blend within that stencil. So This technique is great for stretching your supplies because there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. And I wanted to show that if you don't have a lot of stamp sets, you still can come up with, like right here, I came up with 2 different cards just using one stamp from the stamp set, and they're pretty different. So I think that there's a lot of different things you can do to stretch your supplies. It's always good to try to challenge yourself. I try to limit myself to like just this one stamp. I'm actually doing this. This card is one that I entered for the Scrapbook and Cards Today challenge from World Card Making Day, because the one challenge was to use one stamp set to create a full card, and most people were doing, creating a background with it and then doing kind of a spotlight image. But I wanted to do the spotlight technique as well because I wanted mine to be a little bit different than what everyone else had been doing. While you guys are watching me color the rest of this, I did want to apologize because this video was planned to be done, edited, and voiced over by this afternoon, but that is not the plans that Fred had for me today. I was sitting downstairs watching TV for a little bit before I got started, and I heard something come down the steps, and Lucy was downstairs with me already, so I ran over to the steps, and here Fred had decided to walk down the steps by himself today. I did post it over on Instagram that I was shocked that he was down, which is a fantastic thing. For those of you who don't know, Fred is my 19-year-old cat. He and Lucy are biological brother and sister. They're from the same litter, so they're both 19. Lucy has not had many health challenges. Fred has had plenty over the past 2.5 years. So we had an episode Labor Day weekend, and he's been, doing the best that he can. He's walked down the steps a couple of times since then, but I've been bringing him downstairs. Different this week was mostly when he wanted to go downstairs. He really didn't want to go downstairs before that. So today he just decided he didn't want to wait for me, and he went downstairs twice on his own today. So today was a really good day, but I don't like to leave him downstairs without me being there. I just want to make sure that he can get up all of the steps because I do have a lot of steps in my house. So I want to make sure that if he needed to get upstairs to get his food or the litter box or water or anything, even though I have water in the kitchen, but if he needed anything on the other floor, he was able to get back up there. So I apologize for this going up much later than I had anticipated, but life happens. Okay, so back to the card. Now that I am finished coloring those images in, so you can see only part of those images are colored in with the exception of the main middle image. And now I am putting some Honeybee Bee Creative glue onto the piece, gluing it down to the red piece that I said was 1/4 of an inch larger than that spotlight piece, and then I'm going to go around the remaining image around the edges and just add a little bit of glue because that red cardstock is larger than the opening, and you need a piece that's larger than the opening to glue this down. So that's what you're going to do, but you want to line it up so the images still match up to each other. So then we are going to glue it down to the piece of pattern paper that I chose and then glue it down to the front of the card. So this one was a pretty easy one to do, but I think, again, it was quick and simple. You can probably very easily mass produce this. And I just think that it's super cute and it's a really different technique that I don't think that a lot of people do. So I'm going to take out my ATG and glue that down to the base. You'll notice that I did use both wet and ATG glue. It doesn't really matter what you use. I just don't like using wet glue sometimes on the thinner card bases, and that's what this was. This one was just 65-pound card base. So we are going to move on to the sentiment. So this is a 2-inch strip of green cardstock that I had left over from a cut that I had made. I'm going to be doing some heat embossing on it. So you just saw me use my powder tool with some light kaolin clay, went over the piece, and now we're going to stamp out that Merry Christmas in some Versamark ink. And then we're going to be using some Stampendous white embossing powder to add some to add embossing powder to it so that we can heat it up and create an embossed sentiment. So using that powder, that light kaolin clay, helps to get all of any static electricity, any oils or anything from your fingers, get that off of there so that the embossing powder will only stick to the areas where you want it, where you've put that Versamark ink. So heated up my heat tool off camera, went ahead and heat up the sentiment, heat embossed it, and now I am getting ready to glue that image down. We're going to switch back to the Honeybee Be Creative glue. You could use ATG here, tape runner, whatever you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. And just making sure there's an even border on all 3 sides for that. And then we're going to start gluing these layers down. Since both of these cards have very little stamping, I think that they would both be really easy to mass produce for Christmas cards. And it's amazing how you can just take one stamp from a single stamp set and create 2 cards with different looks, but fairly simple. So hopefully these are easy to reproduce, and this gives you guys some ideas for your Christmas cards. If you are enjoying this series, please let me know in the comments. Please give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. If you have not yet checked out the intro video for this series, please head over to the video. I will put the link in the video description so you guys can check it out. There are giveaways associated with this. Make sure you head over the intro video so you can find out all the different ways that you can win. And I will see you guys again on Monday for day 4. Bye.